I can still smell the dust and old paper from those late nights in the Westbrook College archives. Back in 2019, I was part of a small graduate research group, just me, Marcus, and Elena, and we'd claimed the third-floor archive room as our unofficial headquarters. The college library closed at midnight, but Professor Grimshaw had given us a key because we were working on our thesis projects. That cramped room, with its ancient wooden tables and floor-to-ceiling shelves, became our sanctuary, our escape from cramped dorm rooms and the pressure of deadlines. We'd bring coffee, spread out our laptops, and lose ourselves in centuries-old documents until 2, sometimes 3 in the morning. It felt like we owned the place, like we discovered something secret and untouchable. But there was always something off about that room. The overhead lights flickered constantly, not in that horror movie way, just enough to be annoying. And there was this persistent cold draft that came from the northeast corner, even though there were no windows on that wall. Elena joked that it was the ghost of some overworked librarian from the 1800s still organizing books in the afterlife. We'd laugh, but honestly, none of us ever sat in that corner. The real weird detail, though, was the whispering. At first, I thought it was the old heating pipes, or maybe voices carrying up from the floors below, but it was too rhythmic, too deliberate. It sounded like someone reading aloud, in a language I couldn't quite place, Latin maybe, or something older. Marcus swore he never heard it, but I'd catch Elena tilting her head sometimes, listening. She heard it too. We were there, because we needed to be. Marcus was running from a family that didn't understand why he'd chosen medieval history over law school. Elena was a first-generation student, carrying the weight of her entire family's expectations. And me. I was trying to prove I belonged somewhere, anywhere. That archive room represented freedom, a place where our work mattered more than our backgrounds. Then, on a Tuesday night in October, Elena didn't show up. Not unusual at first. Sometimes one of us had to skip a session for other commitments, but she didn't answer texts. Her roommate said she'd left for the library at 9 p.m. and never came back. Campus security found her bag in the archive room the next morning, laptop still open, but Elena was gone. Just gone. Marcus and I retraced everything. We went through her research notes, checked her browser history, read her last text to us. A joke about needing more caffeine, nothing concerning. The police treated it as a standard missing person case. They interviewed us, searched the campus, checked surveillance cameras. The cameras showed her entering the library at 9:47 p.m. She never appeared leaving. The third floor had no cameras. Budget cuts, the administration said. That's when I started really paying attention to the northeast corner. Elena's things had been found near that section. I began staying later, alone, waiting. The whispering grew louder. I could make out patterns now, almost like a conversation, question and answer, back and forth. One night, I finally walked to that corner and ran my hands along the shelves. Behind a row of bound journals from 1887, I found it, a gap in the wall. Not a hole exactly, more like a seam, barely visible. When I pressed it, a section of the wall shifted inward, with a sound like a sigh. Behind it was a narrow passage, barely wide enough for one person. Stone steps descended into darkness. The whispering was coming from down there, clearer now. I could hear 2 voices. One was reading in that ancient language. The other was responding. And it sounded like Elena. I should have called someone. I should have run. Instead, I turned on my phone's flashlight and started down. The steps spiraled deeper than should have been possible. We were only on the 3rd floor, but I counted 47 steps down. The walls were carved with symbols I didn't recognize. The air grew colder with each step, until I could see my breath. At the bottom was a room. A real room, carved from stone, filled with shelves of books that looked impossibly old. And in the center stood a figure, in an old-fashioned librarian's dress, gray and tattered. She was facing away from me, standing before a lectern, reading from a massive tome. The whispering was coming from her. And sitting on the floor, cross-legged like a student, was Elena, or something wearing Elena's face. She was whispering back, repeating the words. The librarian's head began to turn. I didn't wait to see her face. I ran. I stumbled up those stairs, my phone light bouncing wildly, and I swear I could hear footsteps behind me. Not running, just walking steadily, purposefully. The whispering grew louder, angry now, demanding. I burst through the gap in the wall, through the archives, down the main stairs, and I didn't stop until I hit the quad outside. I went to the police. I told them everything. They searched the archives. They found the gap in the wall, but behind it, just a utility crawl space filled with old pipes. No stairs, no room, no librarian, no Elena. They thought grief had broken me. Marcus transferred schools a week later. I finished my thesis remotely and never went back to that building. Elena was declared a missing person, case eventually gone cold. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear that whispering. And I wonder if she's still down there, learning whatever it was that librarian wanted to teach her. The thing that haunts me most. The night before she disappeared, Elena told me she'd finally figured out what the whispering was saying. She said it was beautiful. She said it was calling her name. If you've ever felt something watching you in an old library or heard voices where there shouldn't be any, drop a comment below. And if you want to hear more stories about the places that refuse to let go of their secrets, subscribe. Because some knowledge comes with a price, and some librarians never stop collecting what they're owed.